If you're a tradie slash contractor and you're not currently creating videos in your business, or you don't want to because you feel like, well, quite frankly, they'd suck, well, then this podcast is for you, because we're going to discuss not only how to create great quality videos, but also how to get engagement with them. Enjoy. Hello, listeners and viewers, and welcome back to the SciShade podcast. My name is Matt, and you're joining us today for the second episode of the series that I'm conducting with my co-host over here, Cassie Daniels from Captive Media. Cassie, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So in the first episode of the series, which we have titled How to Market Your Tradie Business with Video in 2023, we were talking about the 5-step video strategy that trade businesses out there can adopt in order to get started with video. If you didn't hear that one, guys, you're probably going to want to go and check that one out first. This episode that we're talking today will very likely stem into it. So in this episode, we're talking about simple tips to improve the quality and the engagement of your videos, during which I imagine we're going to talk a little bit about the technical side of videos and little things that you can do just to make your videos stand out a little bit more than the average ones that you might see on the interwebs. Cassie, welcome back.
Hello. Good to talk about it.
Captive Media, you guys basically do video content for the construction industry. So obviously I asked you to come back on the show here on the show. I was on your show not so long ago, but I asked you to come on the show just to dispel a few of the myths and, more importantly, remove some excuses.
We will definitely try.
Because I'm sick of hearing them, to be honest. But, it's been, look, there's no secret, I suppose, that video is, the medium of the century here. Like, everyone is using it, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger. So any insight or any tips or any sort of advantages that you guys out there can get hold of in order to start creating video, I think is going to be well received for both your audience and, of course, the whole positioning of you as the expert within your industry or vertical or whatever it might be. Now, in this episode, as we mentioned, we're talking about some hacks here to improve the quality of the video. And of course, we've all seen those videos on Facebook and Instagram and stuff where the sound's shocking and the lighting's no good. It's really not that complicated to record a good video and take good photos if you just take a bit of time and you have a few basic ideas of the things that you need to consider. And of course, this episode is going to be about how you can do that. I think people have this misconception that they need to have this huge studio quality setup, all the right cameras. The cameras on these phones are incredible. Amazing. You just need to learn how to use them right. And I suppose the reality is as well, when a lot of the things that we're talking about today, video on social media, you pretty much 90% of those videos, especially if it's stories and reels and stuff like that, it's all going to be done through phone cameras anyway, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, most of the stuff that you see in social media is shot by a phone. It's the rarity to be professionally shot.
We have this conversation a lot with clients, obviously, when we're like, get us photos of your jobs. They're like, yeah, okay, and they'll just take photos like they would if they were uploading it to their service mate, or whatever. I'm like, no, just take a little bit of time with it. We've even got like a process for them on how to take better quality photos for the purpose of marketing. Again, it's just a few little things you need to consider. So I'm very keen to hear what your insight is here.
Yeah. So I guess, like we said, most of the content that you see on social media or online is shot with a phone. And as Matt said, the quality of the phones these days are incredible. So you definitely do not need to go out and buy a camera or, any kind of professional or semi-professional gear to get those high quality images and video. So I'm just going to start by running you through a bit of the basic equipment that I recommend to get started. And I am including an option for whether you are using a phone or you want to invest in a camera, just as that alternative for you if if it's something that you do really feel passionate about taking to the next level. But obviously, starting with a phone, if your phone shoots in 4K, that which most of the all of the recent iPhones do. I am an iPhone gal, so I don't know about the other models, but I know that anything that is half recent would be a 4K camera. 4K just means that the resolution is 4,000 pixels, which basically means that there is more data in that image, so that it's less pixelated and less kind of
It's a higher
average.
resolution.
Higher resolution, exactly. So think of your standard definition TV compared to a 4K TV. So having a 4K camera on your phone is a really good place to start. The second piece of equipment, if you are shooting with a phone, is just to have some headphones. We have a microphone on them, so we want to make sure that the audio captured is as high a quality as possible. And this is something that a lot of people can quite easily go wrong with, because studies have shown that if the video is bad, people will still watch it if the audio is good. But if the audio is bad, people will turn off. And I don't know
100%.
what the psychology is behind that, but it's so true. So just make sure that if you're recording some face to cam, you've got even just your Apple AirPods or like some headphones that just have that microphone in the cord. Anything like that is perfectly fine.
I mean,
Yeah.
for years I've just been using the really cheap $100 lapel mics from Rode. Just plug
Oh,
straight into your phone,
yeah.
clips onto your shirt here, and it's. I'm still using the one that, I mean, you can get they do wireless ones now. I'm
Yeah.
still using the one that I've just been using for years because it just doesn't break. You can't kill it.
Yeah. And I think the one that you're referring to is called the Smart Lav. So
Yeah,
if you want to invest in something a little bit more pro, like you said, they're $100 or something from Amazon. So Rode Smart Lav, and they just plug into your phone, and then just clip onto your shirt. So super easy, and very high quality, by the way. And the third thing that I recommend is having a tripod. So this can also be like a Kmart special. It could be, just $20 on Amazon. You do
yeah.
not need to invest a lot. But obviously, particularly if you are shooting things like a time lapse of you basically like building a retaining wall or something like that over a period of time, you want to make sure that that camera stays in that same spot. And whilst propping it up against your radio could work as a backup, if that moves, then it just is going to mess up your whole time lapse. So having a tripod just gives you can set and forget type thing, especially if you're filming anything, face to cam or anything like that as well.
Some of those
Um,
GoPros and things like that do great time lapse. I know a lot of the guys will climb the flagpole and stick a GoPro on the on there and do
yeah,
time lapse shots for that over the course of the day or whatever.
yeah, exactly. And it's how easy a GoPros to use. Like you literally just like find the setting, click done.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the basic equipment that I suggest if you're wanting to create content from your phone. There are other things that you can get. For example, a gimbal. Now, some of you probably know what this is already, but it's basically just like a stabilization device that you can buy actually for your phone. You get them for professional cameras as well, but it basically just means that you can move around and you can film with your phone and it stays ultra smooth. So you don't
Yeah.
get like every time you step, you get that jerky kind of look. And again, the new iPhones have a lot of inbuilt stabilization, so they are pretty good. But if you're going to be filming a lot around job sites and moving shots, stabilization can massively improve the quality of your footage. So there's like a DJI gimbal, which you can get, I think, on Amazon for $170. That is perfect for your phone. And I even use it on like filming on jobs sometimes, if it takes quite a long time to change the lenses and the stabilization for my camera. So if I just need to grab something really quick and I don't have time to change my lens, I'll just chuck my phone on. So yeah, gimbal is something that else you could consider. If you're just doing still shots, like you definitely don't need that. And then the other thing is if you wanted to upgrade to more of a semi-professional kind of setup, you could get a vlogging camera. I would recommend something like that, which is just a point and shoot type thing, but just gives you more options if you are looking at, I guess, learning more of the technical side of photo and video, which some people definitely are really interested in it and want to kind of use a bit more of a higher quality setup. So the benefits for that are giving you different options in terms of your focal length. So in terms of a wide angle or a narrow angle, which you can obviously do on phones as well, but it's just a bit higher quality.
Yeah, it's. I think for the better part, the my experience is certainly with um, the microphone. I mean, the phone, the quality on the phone cameras is great. The microphones, the sound is where most people tend to drop the ball, and I have in the past
Yes.
myself. And you just and just applying a bit of common sense to, and maybe we'll get into this. With how you go about it. Like if it's a super windy day, the
Mm,
mic will pick the wind up.
yeah.
If don't shoot into the sun because you're just going to see a white dot. Like little things.
Yeah.
They seem obvious, but they're not always obvious.
No. And until it's like you don't wake up and just know how to drive. You learn how to drive and then over time you become better and then you have that skill.
Yeah.
And this is no different to driving, to your learning your trade. It's something that you've maybe not done before and you just got to get some reps under your belt until you know what you're doing and you feel comfortable. So
Hmm.
hopefully this episode will help you with that. So once you have got your equipment and you've decided what you're going to be using, um, I just want to go into some tips for filming better quality footage.
Hmm.
And there's three things that I always talk about in terms of how to do this. So the first one is, as you just mentioned, Matt, is lighting. So when we're shooting outside, you always want to look at where is the sun. And obviously, the quality of the footage is massively determined by whether or not how much light is shining on your face or on the job or whatever it is, the subject that you're filming. So you want to make sure that you're standing holding the camera so that the light is best positioned to give even lighting if possible across what you're filming. So if, for example, you are filming one of your team and they're just, talking to the camera, just saying what's going on site today, and you're holding the camera filming them. If it is a really, really sunny day and the sun is like right overhead, you'll probably notice that, it's really bright in their eyes and you're getting a lot of shadows on the face. But when the sun's above us, the shadows kind of come downwards. So it can make you look like you've got, big bags under your eyes and like all the shadows form like but from your nose downwards. So ideally, if it's like middle of the day, bright sun, you want to kind of angle it a little bit off to the side. The worst thing you can do is put it behind you, as in behind the person that you're filming, because the light will be coming behind them and their face will be in the shadow, and your phone is going to auto expose, which basically means it's going to put the light that you see on the screen, how much light's in your footage, based on the light that's behind them. So it's going to put the shadow put the face into even more shadow. So basically don't ever shoot with the sun behind you. That's how
Yeah.
you become a silhouette. So if you think about how a silhouette works, that's probably the best and easiest way to explain it. So
Mm.
if the sun is behind you, you're going to be a silhouette. So if it's really, really bright, definitely recommend just having it 45 degrees off to the side, just so it's not really bright in people's eyes unless they're wearing sunnies.
Mm.
But the best thing that you can do, if you've got a choice about where you're going to shoot, if you're filming on site but you don't need to be positioned in a specific area, look for somewhere that is like in total shade, as in not half shade. If you stand outside and you're like half in the sun, half not, and you get that line across your face, like definitely don't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, just look for basically evenness in the light. When you go into shade, there's no sun directly coming in there, which means that it's a lot more balanced. When the lighting is balanced, it means that your camera on your phone can adjust for that, and it just makes it a lot more aesthetically pleasing. Put it that way.
I would just like to say to you guys, just take your time and look at it. Like so many people just pull the camera out, take a photo, and walk away, and don't actually
Yeah.
take the time to consider the setup and consider the lighting and consider the background and consider the sun positioning and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't. It's very much a common sense conversation, but it just takes a little bit extra time just to sort of assess
Yeah.
what's happening in the environment for you to make a much better quality, media capture.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really, really good point. And I just thinking back to a shoot that I did a couple of weeks ago, and it's a whole house renovation, and we wanted to have him standing out the front of the house to have the house in the background. Um, for the video because he was like introducing the job and doing a progress update on where it is at. But when we stood him out the front, there was just so much sun on the face. It wasn't like positioning, it wasn't making him look the best that he could. Yeah, exactly. And it was just so bright. And so what we did is the garage that was like in the front yard had no walls on it, but just had a roof because they were obviously building it. So we put him in the garage so you could still see through the walls and out the back of the garage and get that house in the background. But there was no sunlight on his face, which just meant it was so much more easier to look at the shot. Like it was so much nicer and even on his face. So
Yeah, and it's really important if you are filming in a dark space to make sure you have light on you so that you can actually see yourself. I mean, even here, like you can see the lights that I'm running here. If I turn these off, you're not going to be able to see much. So that's not a very good quality video. But when you turn the lights back on, then
yeah.
all of a sudden it makes it look a lot better. So little things. But of course, there's also you can also have too much light. So you probably don't want to go and get the Makita torch out of the toolbox and shine that in your face because you'll be blinded. But
You're just basically creating your own sun. And
so I found a good tip for that. Sometimes if you are on site and you do want to get better lighting, is instead of shining the light at your face, you shine it at the wall opposite you, and it will brighten the room up, and it sort of bounces back onto you.
that's a really good idea. So yeah, just creating a bounce board. So white obviously will reflect that light back into your face. So that's a very good tip, Matt. I'm gonna suggest that to my clients next time. Next time that comes up.
I'll give you another good tip too. Another great way to diffuse the light is if you've got like a water bottle, fill the bottle with water and shine your torch into the light, and that will also diffuse the light.
Very good.
A few tradie ninja hacks here.
Yeah. Should make a video about that. And that's a really good point about the inside light as well. So obviously if you're at the building a frame stage, you've got the roof on and everything's pretty dark inside, go and find a window where there's no direct sunlight coming through and face towards that if you're filming yourself so that the light is coming in from outside. So
yeah, there's very often a tendency to open the window and then stand in front of it and try and shoot when the light's behind you, but it never works. You've got to open the window and you've got to face the window so the light actually
or have a light in front of you, which
right. Yeah.
But I mean, we don't always have that on site. So yeah, that's tip one for filming better quality is get your lighting right. And I would always suggest, like, if you've got the time, film two versions, one in like a brighter and one in a less bright, and then you've got those options later because like you say, you never know until you go back and look at it and until you get really good practice at it. So film a couple of different versions.
So we've kind of covered a lot of the big things there in relation to better quality. Should we dive into how to sort of improve engagement?
Yeah, sure. No worries. So, in terms of making the videos more interesting and engaging, so this is coming down to like how you're actually executing on the video. So, the first thing I want to say is think about the context. So, the biggest, I guess, mistake I would say that I see a lot of tradie businesses do is they make content for other tradie businesses instead of making it for their paying customers or themselves. Yeah. So if your customer does not want to see just you filming around your job site and that's it, like, why they don't really care about that. They want to see something that has context. So if you want to show your job site, why are you showing it to them? What is the value in it for them? And then how do you give it context so they understand what they're looking at? So if you're filming around on your Instagram story and you're building something for the day, put some text on there to explain what you're doing and how it relates to the customer experience, as opposed to just filming it, or putting a picture of your tools up. Like, your customer doesn't care about that unless you were to say, one of the ways that we keep the quality so high for our customers is to make sure that we always have up to date tools and high quality tools. These are some of the ones that we use. Like, you have to give it some context and make it relevant to them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I know. I always say with content to our clients, make sure it passes the mum test, and by that I mean, if you gave this piece of content to your mother, would she understand it based on the fact that she doesn't have a fraction of the knowledge with this industry or this specific product or service that you do? Because it's really easy to fall into that trap of creating content that we would like to hear. And you see it, when we say if clients, wanted to give us some content or copy or anything like that, very often it's just full of, technical talk and jargon and things that they're so used to hearing themselves, but it doesn't parlay to their avatar.
Exactly. I love that. The mum test. It's great.
Sorry, mum.
So no. So understanding the context and then making sure that the value's there. So how is this valuable for your customer? What are they actually going to get from it? And then once you're making sure that you're delivering some value, either educational or inspirational, then start with a hook. And this is something that is very simple to do, but you basically have 3 seconds as a general rule to get people to watch your video. So if you're posting, for example, an Instagram reel and the first 5 seconds are just filming around on your site, but it doesn't hook the audience in any way or make them want to watch on, then they're just going to scroll past.
Or
So
your logo.
Yeah, exactly. So give them something of value in that first 3 seconds, and that's what we call a hook. So you might do something like posing a question, like, things or a statement, sorry, to say things to consider when doing this kind of renovation, and then you go into talk about the 3 things that you're going to give value on. Or do I need to be contacting an architect before I contact a builder? And then you go on to explain or show or whatever it is in your video. So you've got 3 seconds to hook people before they scroll. So put that value and put some kind of open loop that makes them want to watch on.
Do you recommend as well, can you use as a hook a bit of a summary of what that video is going to be about? So for example, in this video, we're going to run through the top 3 things that you need to be asking your builder if you're considering renovating. Stay tuned. Is that considered a hook or?
Yeah, I think it is, but I would just say you want to have your keywords and that sooner in that. So your keywords are 3 things to consider when renovating. So when you go into saying things like, in this video, we're going to talk about, that 3 seconds is already gone before you've even got into your keywords. So I would say get straight to the point. And if you are talking on camera and you're going to be basically doing that intro that you just did, write in text on the screen three things to consider when renovating as well, just so that you're kind of doubling down on that message to get people to actually watch the video. And then the final tip for creating engagement is to tell a bit of a story in what you're sharing. So I've seen some really big success with tradie businesses using or Instagram reels to tell stories about their employees, day in the life of what's happening with them, kind of build a bit of a company culture. There's one company that I've seen even do they're a plumbing company, and they have quite a big network of plumbers in Southeast Queensland, and they actually do employee of the month, and they draw it on a reel on Instagram, and then they spin the wheel, and the employees either win a $500 voucher or $1,000 voucher, and they post it every month, and everyone watches to see who's won out of the staff and how much they're going to win. It's like a game show, and they do heaps of stuff like that. It's just it makes it really, really interesting. And now everyone waits for like the next one, and they do it with their customers as well. Like they do a customer draw and they spin and give out prizes and that kind of stuff. So
That's funny.
yeah, have fun and like
Come on down.
build a yeah build a bit of a story if you can into your content, because that's what like keeps people watching once you've hooked them.
Kind of ties back into, I suppose, what we said in the previous video about previous sorry podcast about like using social media and using video and things like that to
Mm.
build a bit of culture and use that as a way to communicate,
Yeah,
things that are happening in the business.
absolutely. Yeah, there's so many things that you can create videos about that are super interesting to your customers.
I like it. And so with the story, I'm curious because again, this is often where we see sometimes without a strategy, stories sort of go off on this technical tangent. um, is there a simple framework that you typically advise for people when they are creating the content to not get sucked into that vortex?
Yeah, I mean, no one wants to watch like someone waffling on about like nothing.
Yeah,
So
this is the
going in,
JG 10652, and
yeah,
this is great for measuring the DPI on the 4A1s. And you're like,
yeah, a bunch of
oh,
industry
okay.
jargon that nobody understands. But yeah, I mean, like, I guess like we're getting into like a basic story structure. If you are wanting to really think about that, every movie you've ever watched, every like TV show always has basically the same three acts, which is there's a conflict, there's like the journey to resolving that conflict, and then there's the resolution. So if you think about it as like everything you create is a mini story or a mini movie, like you, as an example, say you're doing some educational content for your customer about overcoming material delays, and I'm just making this up on the spot, but you might start with a conflict of saying many customers in the building industry are experiencing delays with the start of the build because of material delays in the industry. So that's your conflict. Um, and then you might say, at ABC Builders, we are pre-ordering materials and storing them on site to ensure that we are overcoming this problem. So that, and then the resolution is, so when you build with us, you know that you're not going to experience those same delays that you might have elsewhere. So that's, I guess, a bit more technical, but just focusing on like the conflict, that process of overcoming it and what that looks like as an outcome is a really good way to do that.
Yeah, nice. Good clarification. Cool. And then what next? Editing?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just going to quickly go into this because I mean, if you're just shooting from your phone, I actually recommend an app called InShot. Sorry, I had to check the name there. So it's really it's a cheap app. I think it's about $40. And you basically can do so much basic editing, and it's super easy to use. So if you've got no
Hmm.
editing experience, you literally just film all the videos on your phone and just upload the ones from your camera roll into the app. You can just trim down the bars like you would if you were, trimming any kind of iPhone video on your phone, and you can change the speed, and you can pull the sound up and down and you can edit all the individual clips. So it
Yeah,
just
right.
means that it's just so easy to use. So that's
That's cool.
always the one that I recommend. And it, just as a reminder, InShot. Um, CapCut is another version of that. It's very, very similar. Um,
I
but
guess for most
Instagram,
things though, yeah, like reels and stuff,
yeah,
you can do like little basic edits in that sort of stuff, in those things, can't you?
yeah. So if you are using Instagram, then Instagram Reels creation tools are amazing. Um, yeah, they're very similar to what you can do in InShot, not quite as many functions. But if you are using Instagram and you are creating Reels, like I recommend filming all of the videos on your phone, having them in your camera roll, and then uploading them into the Instagram Reels creation part of the app, and then just doing all the edits in there. Um, and it is really easy to use as well. But if not, you can get my free
And you
training.
And yeah, exactly. And you probably don't need to over edit in most cases. Like I think people get a bit
Yes.
caught up with, again, in the interest of keeping things raw and being a reflection of you and your personality. You
Mm.
just you don't feel you don't have to over edit. You don't have to go through and remove every and like that's not what it's about. Like people like to see people that are actually people, not Hollywood star actors.
Mm. And I would just say tips in terms of editing is just try and keep the pace moving quite quickly. You lose
Yeah.
people very quickly if it feels slow and draggy. So if you are, saying some tips and then you're filming around your site, I would keep the clips as short as you can to show what you need to show.
Mm.
And if you're say you're saying three sentences and you filmed them individually as three separate sentences, so you can remember each one, film it, remember the next one, film it, which I do a lot. You obviously have three separate clips. Keep the gaps between those three sentences short. So if you notice, if you ever watch YouTube, everyone's talking, the clips are like bang, 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 bang. They're called jump cuts, where you just basically have the clips really close together. There's not a lot of space between the sentences.
Mm-hmm.
And that is purely to keep people's attention. Like people expect the pace to be quite fast on a lot of stuff these
Sure.
days because it's just kind of what people are used to. So if you're having long clips that are longer than they need to be, or big gaps between sentences, like that kind of stuff can really lose people and then reduce your engagement.
Are we pretty much done on this episode now? Or is there anything else you need to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add just one other thing about filming that I think is quite important. Yeah, so one thing I just wanted to add with how you actually film them is firstly to make sure that you're filming either in vertical or landscape based on where you actually want to share it. If you're
Mm.
wanting to share the video on YouTube, make sure you film it in landscape and you want to obviously have your phone long ways.
So
If
yeah,
you're,
for you guys out there, landscape is this,
yeah,
portrait is that.
yes.
So
So
this portrait is what you would use for Instagram stories and that kind of thing, yeah, and reels.
yeah.
And
So
landscape
even
is for Facebook photos. And
yeah, correct. So even with a lot of Facebook posts and stuff like that, Facebook's ideal aspect ratio, which is a square, like for videos, which is just weird that it's different to Instagram, but um, it's a complex world out there. But if in doubt, unless you know your content's really only going on YouTube, I always film in vertical because
really,
most platforms require vertical, and if you don't, because you can still share stuff in vertical on things like LinkedIn, but if you film it in landscape and then you convert it to vertical, what it
mm,
does is it crops the sides in significantly. So when you are first beginning with this kind of stuff, you don't want to have to think about how much is going to be cropped when this gets transformed into vertical from landscape. You want to
hmm.
just be looking at what you're filming and concentrating on learning how to do that. So, unless you are not using Instagram at all, I would film everything in vertical.
That's
Um,
interesting, isn't it?
yeah, and it's just if you think about your phone, like everyone views stuff on a phone most of the
Up and
time.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, so your biggest goal, another thing for engagement, is fill the screen as much as possible. It's called real estate on your phone, so you want to increase the real estate as much as possible so that when someone's scrolling in a feed, if your post takes up as much of the screen as possible, because that is a huge impact on how engaged they are with the video content. um, so that which way to hold your phone is important. And the other huge mistake that I see people make is they move their phone too quickly when they're filming. So you want to be really slow and steady if you are moving the camera. But if possible, just hold it still, because it's really distracting and off-putting when the shots are moving really fast, as in your hands moving really fast around. So
Which I guess ties into what you were saying earlier about if it's a still video, use a tripod. If it's a moving video, or if there's a lot of them, then you may want to get a gimbal or something.
exactly, yeah.
Good tips.
Yeah, so that's about it. I know there's a lot to take in though.
Yeah, but you know what? I think like at the crux of it, the takeaways from me are and have been for a long time is just use some common sense, think about it, and make sure the lighting is good. So don't just rush it. Have a think about it and test it. Like pull your camera out and look, take a photo. Look, how does it look? If it doesn't look any good, then think about why it doesn't look good and take another one so it does look better. And if you are doing video, it's really, really worthwhile in investing in a ridiculously cheap mic. Like they don't cost you a lot.
Mm,
You don't need to spend hundreds of dollars on a microphone. Some of these things you can get away with for under $100, and they're brilliant. That
mm,
does make a huge difference to the quality of your sound.
yeah, absolutely. Sage advice.
Cool, cool. Well, that wraps up episode 2 of the How to Market Your Tradie Business with Video in 2023 series that I'm conducting here with my co-host Cassie Daniels from Captive Media. Once again, all of the links to Cassie's websites and handles and things like that, and the free course that she has provided for you guys on how to create reels, that'll be available over the show notes. So make sure you go and check those out. We are going to come back, Cassie, and wrap up this series with the third and final episode, which is going to be how to overcome some mindset blocks around creating videos and just, I suppose, in general, the fears around being on camera. So I look forward to chatting to you in that episode. And for you guys out there that are watching this or listening to this, if you have any feedback in relation to anything we've just spoken about in relative to the quality or how you guys have gotten engagement on your videos or things that have worked or things that haven't, let us know in the comments wherever you see this come through. That's a wrap.
Thanks so much.
To get notified of upcoming videos, hit that subscribe button and turn your notifications on. Also, give it a share with someone else who would get value. Enjoy.